Welcome back. It's midweek and we're feeling a little game-ish. So tonight I've decided it's going to be How Wild Is This? Also up a headline from this week, and the panel rates how wild it is on a whiteboard, 10 being oh so very wild and 1 mild, actually. So back with me, Deborah Leah, political commentator, and Danny Salas, Democratic strategist. Let's talk about the rise of socialism in American politics. California Governor Gavin Newsom is openly embracing the rising force of Democratic Socialists. During a live stream interview on YouTube, he rejected the idea that these Democratic Socialists pose a threat to the traditional Democratic Party or the American way of life. Here's what he had to say.
I understand this politics. Progressives in San Francisco going back decades, the progressive, they're very familiar. I govern in that environment. And of course, I'm in, California, and there's aspects of that represented here at the state level. So this is all familiar and it's very healthy. I don't think it's unhealthy. So I completely reject this notion. And look, I'm for addition, not subtraction. The Democratic Party needs to be in the addition business if we're going to get back into the majority.
Right, so California Governor Gavin Newsom may be a 2028 candidate. He's openly endorsing Democratic Socialists. How wild is this? Deborah, let's start with you.
I'm actually going to give this an 8. I don't think it's wild that these are what the ideas that he believes, but I think it's wild that he's actually saying this out loud, because this is something that we've in the Republican Party been saying for a while. Democratic Party has just fully embraced these radical candidates, that it is now the mainstream. And so I think it's pretty wild that he's actually saying it out loud. But if he keeps going in this direction, or if the left and the Democratic Party keeps going in this direction, it's good for the Republican Party. It's not good for the health of America. So pretty wild.
All right, Denny.
1. I mean, it's Gavin Newsom. And everything that he just said is just him screaming just political opportunism, which is him. Right? Even last week, you saw stories of Kamala Harris reaching out to the pro-Palestinian groups, saying that this is the folks that she is going to actually be on the side of when she obviously runs for president again back in 2028. So what he's doing right now is trying to co-opt the DSA folks to say, hey, I'm going to be your candidate in 2028. And that's just him. It's the same thing when he said, a couple like last month, that to a group of black folks that I'm as dumb as you because I scored low on my SAT. I'm like, come on. I'm like, this guy just says wild things all the time, but it's low on the board because it's just him just screaming, again, political opportunism at its finest.
And President Trump has called this trend outright communism. A Reuters analysis shows that the president invoked the word communism 81 times over the past 2 weeks. And earlier today, during a press conference at the end of the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey, President Trump addressed what he called the forming of communism in our country. Let's take a listen to that.
Thank you, Mr. President, for doing this. Iris Tao with NTD, with a sister media with the Epoch Times.
Okay.
On communism, you've been issuing a wake-up call to Americans at home about the dangers of communism. And now you're speaking on the world stage. What's your message to people both living under communist and socialist regimes, but also people living under democracies like in Europe and America, who might not have realized how close communism has come to home?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. But look, I want to get the word out, because what's forming is communism in the country. And communism's easy to sell. I would be the greatest communist in history. I'd be right up there with Lenin. I think this country, with this thing that's going around, is in more danger than it was during World War I, World War II. If you talk about September 11th, if you talk about Pearl Harbor, that was big danger. I think the concept of us going communist, because one thing that happens when you go communist, you never come back, never comes back. You die in squalor. You die a horrible death. You die in squalor, and it gets very evil and very nasty.
I don't want to mention that question was from our White House correspondent, Iris Tao. Your thoughts, Denny?
First, 1 on the wild rating. 1, that was an excellent question by Iris, so I do have to echo President Trump's comments there. But at the same time, no, they're message testing. I mean, we know they said that there was a report by Reuters that said that they stated it 81 times, even using the word communism. We know that he's trying to message test to see if it's actually going to move the chains and actually going to lower whatever type of enthusiasm that Democrats actually have heading into midterms. We know that's part of it. Is it actually more dangerous than World War I or World War II? No, it's not at all. I believe when you had Madison Square Garden being full of actual socialists and actually Nazis at one point, during World War II, that was more dangerous because this is New York City. You had literally Madison Square Garden full with Nazis. That was dangerous. I don't think that's the case right now. What I think you have is folks that are conflating generational change with socialism, and then they're taking advantage of basically a gerontocracy that have refused to step aside in order to actually lead to generational change and new leaders. So that's what I think is actually happening with DSA. They're conflating socialism with the need for generational change. So, but no, I don't, no. I just say just no.
Right, Deborah?
I wasn't sure if we were supposed to give this one a rating in general,
Yes.
but I also gave it around a 1 because this is everything that I voted for. This is not surprising to me. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. I wanted a leader, President Trump specifically, who will stand up against these communists and the socialists who want to bring that overseas to our beautiful country. I grew up half and half New York, a lot of time in Miami. I grew up around people who fled Venezuela, who fled Cuba to come for a better life here. And I was raised about these horror stories about socialism and communism, how it destroys beautiful, thriving countries like Venezuela. So I am very confident and happy to be hearing my president saying this strong messaging, not shocking for me at all. And I hope that the Democratic Party allow their TDS to make them fully embracive of communism and repel any immigrants who they have adopted into their party in the last few years to come on over to the Republican Party, where we will actually stand up against these evil ideologies.
So one of the ways to learn history is by reading. Next is a national assessment suggests that Americans aren't reading enough. Here are some of the findings from the National Assessment of Educational Progress. So last year's data shows 29% of 13-year-olds said they rarely or never read for fun. Back in 1984, that number was just 8%. Meanwhile, in 2024, nearly 30% of American adults cannot paraphrase a multi-page text. That's up from less than 20% in 2017. And the data shows the next generation is reading far less than their parents did at the same age. So here's the statement. Are Americans facing a literacy or reading crisis? How wild is this? Danny, I know you have young children at home, so I'm going to start with you.
I do. Listen, I think it's a 10, without a doubt. And I think it is a scourge that you are seeing across the nation with some states. They're actually diminishing the value of public education. And I'll give you a perfect example that's happening right here in New York. So about 4 to 5 years ago, they decided to lower the standard of what if you're considered to be proficient in a subject, specifically mathematics in the LA. And what I mean by that is in order to be considered proficient, you used to have to score above a 70% on your annual assessment. Now, they lowered it to 52%. Imagine saying that you are actually proficient in mathematics and English by just scoring above a 52%. All right, so that tells me that we do not care about the education that's being delivered to our children, and we do not care about America's future. And the problem is this has spread. This started in Illinois, and now New York has done it. Oklahoma has done it. Arkansas has done it. We should be giving kudos to the states that have refused to lower the standards to ensure that our students are actually learning and our kids are actually going to pick up the baton and actually lead America to a better future. And those are states like Massachusetts, like New Jersey, like Wyoming, like Utah. So there's a number of Republican and Democratic states that have actually did really, really well. But overall, this is a product of that. There's a reason why when you have Americans that are not actually reading anymore is because we have lessened the importance of education. And that to me is frightening.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Before I reveal my number, that's also this is indicative of a larger issue in our country, that it's not only with education, it's almost like our leadership and the leaders of this country have given up on our youth being proficient and being the best of the next generation. During COVID, the CDC quietly moved back developmental milestones for many children, walking, speaking, independence, using the bathroom, things independently. So there has been a huge move in this country to just not expect a lot from our children, while every one of our enemies is training children out of the gate for mathematics. But I'm rating it a 7 from the opposite reason, because I thought it was going to be much worse than that. The generation that was raised with Netflix, we're the first generation, my generation, to have been raised with streaming services, podcasts, YouTube, all this stuff. So to still have 71% of 13-year-olds reading regularly or somewhat often, that's pretty incredible in my eyes. I miss Read Across America days. I had that as a child in Manhattan with I forgot who it was, Dr. Seuss. You would have these specific reading days, but I think they're doing okay. I think they're watching other things that never existed for generations before.
I want to add, I'm old enough that when I took the SAT, we had to write an essay. Anyway, finally, an influencer has made a business out of collecting and selling trash from New York City's biggest events. He's gone viral again after selling garbage he collected outside Madison Square Garden Following Taylor Swift's wedding, let's look at this video.
I wanted to come out and do the New York City Garbage Not Invited edition, obviously dressed for the occasion. I know a lot of people wanted to be here today to support their girl, T Swift. I couldn't be here, so I'm picking up garbage around Madison Square Garden, as close as you would have gotten, so you can be here in spirit and carry around a piece of their wedding day in your pocket wherever you go.
All right, so his website says the limited run of 50 items has already sold out. Taylor's trash, another person's treasure, lightning round. Let's start with you, Deborah.
What's wrong with people? Are people okay? That is actually weird. The trash had nothing to do with Taylor or Travis. That's just a very dirty area MSG has been out in. That trash is from probably some very funky people. You couldn't pay me to bring that into my home. And nothing like Taylor Swift, who loves socialism, to be having her capitalist supporters be purchasing garbage for God knows how much money on eBay or wherever.
Danny?
Listen, I'm going to give it a 7, and just 2 quick reasons. 1, wonderful strategy by that guy. It is absolutely amazing. And 2, he is a spitting image of the ingenuity of America. How do you make money? You can sell trash from this at a Taylor Swift wedding. Amazing. Good for him.
The American dream is alive and well.
Very quickly, we will talk about brat tax tomorrow. So thanks for joining us tonight.